Ooh, what is up, YouTube? It is so hot outside. That's not how I'm gonna start this video. What is up, YouTube? My name is Paige, and welcome back to my booktube channel. I review books, I read as many as I possibly can in a month, depending on how busy I am, and right now I am not very busy because I am a school teacher. I don't know why I keep saying that. I'm a teacher, and based solely on how hot it is today, I am late making this video. This is my summer TBR. I had some awesome help choosing this TBR from my family and friends, people I love dearly. I asked the people I love for recommendations. I didn't give them much more than that. I just asked them to recommend me either their favorite book or a book they thought that I would really enjoy. Honestly, like, so many of my family members and friends are super intelligent, and I love getting any kind of art recommendations, music, book, whatever from them, because I feel like it just like broadens my horizons and like opens my mind and opens my world to more things. There's also another book that I know I'm gonna read during this time, and it doesn't have anything to do with the recommendation. It's for a book club. So, as you may or may not know, if you've been following along for a while, I have a book club with my cousin and my mom, and really kind of delve deep into the book and little meetings that we have, usually about 3 times per book. So, the book that we are reading currently, up to page 120, it's the second in a duology, and it is Lisa Jewell's The Family Remains. It is the follow-up to The Family Upstairs, which we really enjoyed. And this is the second book and the final book, I believe. I'm not going to read to you what it's about because I don't want to know anything about it other than the fact that it's a follow-up to a book that I've already read. If you read The Family Upstairs, you've probably already read The Family Remains. It's like gripping. We've been looking forward to reading this. It's a follow-up to a family cult saga book. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. If you like British mysteries, British thrillers, this is a duology for you. You'll really enjoy this. The first book of the books recommended to me by my loved ones that I'm reading is a book I received as a gift from my fiance's brother several years ago. It's The Way of Kings by Sanderson, and I've already started it. It is the 8th of July, and I started this a couple days ago, so I'm on like page 2 something. I'm not reading it in book form. I'm reading it on my Kindle because I just find the text like way too small. But you can follow my reading journey for this book in a vlog that's coming out when I finish this book. I long for the days before the last desolation, before the heralds abandoned us and the knights radiant turned against us, when there was still magic and Roshar and honor in the hearts of men. In the end, not war, but victory proved the greatest test. Did our foes see that the harder they fought, the fiercer our resistance? Fire and hammer, forge a sword, time and neglect rusted away. So we won the world, yet lost it. Now, there are 4 whom we watch. The surgeon, forced to forsake healing and fight in the most brutal war of all time. The assassin, who weeps as he kills. The liar, who wears her scholar's mantle over a thief's heart. And the prince whose eyes opened the ancient past as his thirst for battle wanes. One of them may redeem us. One of them will destroy us. So far it's good. It's a thick one. It's part of the Stormlight archive, but it is of course also part of a greater world written by Sanderson. So far so good. I really am enjoying this. It also might be worth noting that I've never filmed in here. This is our office. We're a Star Wars household, in case you were wondering. I just don't have a memory for Star Wars or any type of like big world like that. I feel like every time I watch Star Wars, it's like watching the movies for the first time. Same, honestly, with Harry Potter. Whoever wrote that did a great job. Next, I'm going to go through the books that I don't have. I'm finding these ones either in the library or otherwise. The first book that I do not physically have a copy of right now is The Moor's Account by Laila Lalami. And this book looks fascinating. It's historical fiction, and it was recommended to me by my fiance's lovely sister-in-law. I was thrilled to get a recommendation from her. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to ask literally everybody I loved for a recommendation. Started small. I'm not that fast of a reader. Came out in 2014. I've never actually heard of this book, but it sounds like right up my alley. In 1527, the conquistador Panfilo de Narvaez sailed from the port of Sanlúcar to Barrameda with a crew of 600 men and nearly 100 horses. His goal was to claim what is now the Gulf Coast of the United States for the Spanish crown, and in the process become as wealthy and famous as Hernán Cortés. I cannot see. And in the process become as wealthy and famous as Hernán Cortés. But from the moment the Narvaez expedition landed in Florida, it faced peril. Navigational errors, disease, starvation, as well as resistance from indigenous tribes. Within a year, there were only 4 survivors. The expedition's treasurer, Alvar Núñez, Cabeza de Vaca, a Spanish nobleman named Alonso del Castillo Maltadona, a young explorer named Andres Dorantes de Carranza, and Dorantes' Moroccan slave, Mustafa al-Zamori, whom the 3 Spaniards called Estebanico. I am not Spanish. These 4 survivors would go on to make a journey across America that would transform them from proud conquistadors to humble servants, from fearful outcasts to faith healers. That is not a book I would choose for myself, and I am so excited to read it. Yeah. It is July 8th today, so I've already had a little bit of time with some of these recommendations, and I wanted to get started as soon as I could. As soon as I was done my last book for June, I got into this one. I listened to it as an audiobook because I literally could not find a physical copy. I was on vacation in Northern Ontario, and it wasn't at the library. I thought maybe I could find an ebook through my library. It just was not available. You know, I couldn't order it on Amazon or any other way. So I just listened to it, and that was fine. So I listened to it on Hoopla, which I love, and that book is Up a Road Slowly by Irene Hunt. I didn't realize there was so much like a lore behind this book. I guess you could call it that. This book came out in 1966, so it was perfect for like my mom. It is a coming of age novel about a young girl, and apparently, based on what I've read on the internet so far, this book has a big following of women who were girls in the 70s and 80s. I've read a lot of accounts of women receiving this book as a gift from aunts or grandmothers or whomever in their lives after their mother passed away. So I think it holds a lot of like nostalgia for people and a lot of importance for people of that generation. And I will review it and you'll see what I think of it. I don't think it's bad at all. I feel like I'm framing it like I thought it was bad. It's not. I didn't think it was bad. Okay. It has a 4-star on 7,090 reviews on Goodreads. So people like it. It's a Newbery Award-winning novel by Irene Hunt. She also wrote Across 5 Aprils and No Promises in the Wind. The book jacket says very little. After her mother's death, Julie goes to live with Aunt Cordelia, a spinster school teacher, where she experiences many emotions and changes as she grows from 7 to 18. It's true. There's so many emotions. Alrighty, next up is my stepbrother's recommendation. Now, he says that he's not a reader. It is unclear whether he has read this book or not. And it is one of his favorite movies. He's a mechanic. He likes thrillers. He likes mysteries. He does read a lot of westerns, so I don't know why he didn't recommend one of those. I think he was just being thoughtful and recommended me something that he knew I would like. Because he recommended Stephen King's Christine. And I love Stephen King. And I haven't read Christine, so we're gonna get into it. It's a simple synopsis for this one as well. A love triangle involving 17-year-old misfit Arnie Cunningham, his new girlfriend, and a haunted 1958 Plymouth Fury. Still blind. Don't know why I took them off. Dubbed Christine by her previous owner, Arnie's first car is jealous, possessive, and deadly. Nice. So Christine is the one that I cannot find a physical copy of at a library, so I might just have to buy it. I also couldn't find it on Kindle, which was weird. So I looked it up. It's not like canceled or anything. So I don't know why it's not like out there. It's a movie. The next book I have heard of, but I know nothing about. And I'm excited to read it because it's been recommended to me by my good friend Keitha, who is very online and very awesome. I don't think that's how I would usually describe her, but that's how I'm describing her here. Keitha is also one of my brightest friends and one who I would take a recommendation from any day on anything. Talking about her is making me lose my words. This book is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, and I've been looking forward to reading this book, even though I have no idea what it's about, and I think I did that on purpose, but I'm going to read the synopsis anyway. Kristen Raymond will never forget the night Arthur Leander, the famous Hollywood actor, had a heart attack on stage during a production of King Lear. That was the night when a devastating flu pandemic arrived in the city, and within weeks, civilization as we knew it came to an end. Too real, Emily. 20 years later, Kirsten moves between the settlements of the altered world with a small troupe of actors and musicians. They call themselves the Traveling Symphony, and they have dedicated themselves to keeping the remnants of art and humanity alive. But when they arrive in St. Deborah by the water, they encounter a violent prophet who will threaten the tiny band's existence. And as the story takes off, moving back and forth in time, and vividly depicting life before and after the pandemic, the strange twist of fate that connects them all will be revealed. Oh, it came out in 2014. Ooh, spoopy. So it's fiction, science fiction, dystopia, post-apocalyptic, blah, blah, blah. That's how it's described. I am very looking forward to this. Thank you, Keitha. Next, my cousin Megan recommended me a book, and I am very excited because we grew up reading together. We read a lot of the same things. She was super interested in history when we were in high school. I did a degree in history after high school. We read Game of Thrones together. We watched and enjoyed Lord of the Rings together. And now I get to read a book that she recommended. Apparently it's one of her favorites. She recommended it because it was short. It's The Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. Now, I didn't ask for a short book, but she offered me a short book, and she offered me a long book that was part of a series. I chose the shorter one. So, and you'll see why. There's a lot of books in this video. Saved from the brink of death by a mysterious stranger, Constanta is transformed from a medieval peasant into a bride fit for an undying king. But when Dracula draws a cunning aristocrat and a starving artist into his web of passion and deceit, Constanta realizes that her beloved is capable of terrible things. Ooh, it's about Dracula's wife. Finding comfort in the arms of her rival consort, she begins to unravel their husband's dark secrets. With the lives of everyone she loves on the line, Constanta will have to choose between her own freedom and her love for her husband. But bonds forged by blood can be broken only by death. I've heard great things about this book online. I didn't know what it was about until right now, so this seems like a great recommendation. It's described as a dizzying nightmare of romance. I like that. All right, next, my cousin Melissa, who's also the owner of Dear Vintage Canada. You can check her out on Instagram. Great Etsy store for all vintage stuff that you might want to buy. Clothes, decor, like fantastic store. And she's also a huge reader. So I was looking forward to what her recommendation might be because she sends me the most interesting books. When I was younger, I would look at her shelves and like borrow her books when I was visiting just to, feel grown up and cool. So I'm not surprised that she sent me something that I was really looking forward to reading. It's part of a trilogy. It's also a standalone. Like you can read all three as a trilogy, or you can just read them individually. It doesn't matter what order you read them in. It is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. Things Fall Apart tells two overlapping, intertwined stories, both which center around Okonkwo, a strong man, it's in quotation mark, of an Igbo village in Nigeria. The first of these stories traces Okonkwo's fall from grace with the tribal world in which he lives. In its classical purity of line and economical beauty, it provides us with a powerful fable about immemorial conflict between the individual and society. The second story, which is as modern as the first, is ancient, and which elevates the book to a tragic plane, concerns the clash of cultures and the destruction of Okonkwo's world through the arrival of aggressive, proselytizing European missionaries. These twin dramas are perfectly harmonized, and they are modulated by an awareness capable of encompassing at once the life of nature, human history, and the mysterious compulsion of the soul. Things Fall Apart is the most illuminating and permanent monument we have to the modern African experience, as seen from within. That sounds amazing. All right, next we have the shortest book recommended to me, and it is by the most avid reader I know. My cousin Sagan has recommended to me Elevation by Stephen King, the second Stephen King on this list, and I am very much looking forward to it. She read this recently and recommended it to me based on the fact that I loved Carrie this year. I gave it 5 stars, and she said that she thought I would also really like this one because she hasn't read a lot of Stephen King and she really enjoyed this. If you know Stephen King, you may know that he started out writing short stories, as many authors do, but now he's of course one of the most prolific thriller and horror and mystery writers of our day. Mr. Stephen King, I know this will absolutely hit.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
I know well. So this is Elevation by Stephen King. It's a novel, but like I think technically it's a novella. He says it's a novel. We're listening to him. It's a novel. Castle Rock is a small town where word gets around quickly. Story of my life. That's why Scott Carey wants to confide only in his friend Dr. Bob Ellis about his strange condition. He's losing weight without getting thinner, and the scales register the same whether he is in his clothes or out of them, no matter how heavy they are. Scott also has new neighbors who have opened a fine dining experience in town, although it's an experience being shunned by the locals. Deirdre McComb and her wife, Missy Donaldson, don't exactly conform to a lifestyle the community approves of. And now, Scott seems trapped in a feud with the couple over their dogs dropping their business on his lawn. Missy may be warm and friendly, but Deirdre is cold as ice. As the town prepares for its annual Thanksgiving 12K run, Scott begins to understand the prejudice the women face and tries to help. Unlikely alliances form, and the mystery of Scott's affliction brings out the best in people who have indulged the worst in themselves and others. Dang. I think this is gonna really display Stephen King's awesome writing style that I love so much and that many of us love so much. My fiance and I just finished a road trip. I guess like kind of 2 road trips. We did a trip up to Northern Ontario, and it takes us about 8 hours to drive there and 8 hours to drive back. So we had time to finish like 1.5 audiobooks. The first audiobook we listened to was Holly by Stephen King. Oh my god, I think that might have been one of the best books that both of us read this year. That book was hot. I said hot. I meant like, not like hot like sensual, like hot like, like we just kept going like this. Like when you touch something hot. It was intense. And we didn't know that it was part of like a greater world, or like not of just King's world that he writes in, but like it's part of The Outsiders, and it's part of Mr. Mercedes, like, and the characters are recurring. Like we didn't know that. This is not the first book of the Holly world, but I think you can just read it as a standalone. Like we might have spoiled a couple things for ourselves, but whatever. And the second one we're listening to right now is called The Long Weekend, and we didn't finish it during our road trip, so we're still finishing it now, but we're only listening to it in the car, and we only really drive for like 10 minutes at a time, so we're trying to finish this book, and I think we're gonna wrap it up tonight. We have like half an hour left, and we listened to it at like 2 times speed, so we're gonna finish it. And so far that book's really good too. It's a thriller. Those 2 books are also gonna be part of my summer reading wrap up, but they're not part of this recommendations list. And then there were 2, and 4 people, 4 of you, 4 of my loved ones, people I thought loved me, recommended books from series. I'm looking forward to reading these series. Of course, I've already started one with the Stormlight Archive, but these next 2 have been like seriously recommended. Like the other books, people were like, oh yeah, you should read this. Like this is really awesome, and people were excited to recommend books to me. But these 2, my fiance and my cousin and her husband, like desperately wanted me to read these books. So first, I'm going to show you my fiance's recommendation, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses, the first book in the Sarah J. Maas Court of Thorns and Roses series. I think that's what it's called. Yes, it is. Court of Thorns and Roses. My fiance just recently finished the 4th book. And if you know, you know. But after reading the 3rd book, he said that it was the best book that he'd ever read. So I'm looking forward to this. I know it might just be his vibe and he really liked it, but he said they're really easy reads, and I kind of think I need one. Been going through some dense books lately. An easy read is good recommended reading for me at this point in my life. When 19-year-old huntress Feyre, is that her name? It's spelled Feyre. Do people say Feyre? When 19-year-old huntress Feyre kills a wolf in the woods, a terrifying creature arrives to demand retribution. Dragged to a treacherous magical land she knows about only from legends, Feyre discovers that her captor is not truly a beast, but one of the lethal, immortal fairies who once ruled her world. At least he's not a beast all the time. As she adapts to her new home, her feelings for the fairy, Tamlin, transform from icy hostility into a fiery passion that burns through every lie she's been told about the beautiful and dangerous world of the Fae. But something is not right in the fairylands. An ancient, wicked shadow is growing, and Feyre must find a way to stop it or doom Tamlin and his world forever. Looks good. Looks good, but it's a lot to read if I like it, isn't it, Sphere? Finally, another book in a series. I believe it's a trilogy. This is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And this was recommended to me by my cousin and her husband. Kaylin and Spencer, thank you so much. I'm very excited to read this book. However, it is a fantasy book, and there are names I do not know how to pronounce on the back. There's more consonants than vowels. Let's try our best. They recommended this book to me, saying, I hope you love it. It's like Harry Potter, but for adults. It doesn't look like Harry Potter. He looks like a wraith from Lord of the Rings. I have stolen princesses back from Sleepborough kings. I burned down the town of Trebon. Trebon. I have spent the night with Felurian and left with both my sanity and my life. I was expelled from the university at a younger age than most people are allowed in. I tread paths by moonlight that others fear to speak of during day. I have talked to gods, loved women, and written songs that make the minstrels weep. You may have heard of me. My name is Quote. So begins a tale unequaled in fantasy literature, the story of a hero told in his own voice. It is a tale of sorrow, a tale of survival, a tale of one man's search for meaning in his universe and how that search and the indomitable will that drove it gave birth to a legend. Cool. It's in first person, so that's kind of cool. Oh, there are so many books, and there's so many more than that. There's like 5 more books. That's a lot of pages, but there are a lot more pages. Whoa, my goodness. Looking forward to reading the rest of these books. It's gonna be a long video when I review them. Ugh. Summer's gonna be exciting. Thank you so much for sticking around, and thank you so much for everybody who recommended me a book. I really appreciate all of my friends and family. If you have a book that you think I should read, that would be great. If you can comment below a book that you would recommend that I read, one that you absolutely loved and you think that everybody should read. Thank you so much if you've made it this far. Thank you so much for joining me on my renewed reading journey. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I really appreciate every single one of you for watching my videos and for reading along with me. And I will catch you in the next one. Thanks!